This conference will now be recorded.
Cloud environment, Microsoft cloud environment. So what is cloud, right? So could anyone tell what is cloud? So cloud is, so for example, if you have if your company is using one data center, that means it is on premises. And if your if your company is using the compute resources and all the, so this network resources, all the resources from some third party, right? That is called called the cloud. So if you have one data center that is on premises, and if you are using the services from other providers in market like AWS and Microsoft Azure and GCP, that is called the cloud. Okay, so the all the this infrastructure related, all the network related, all this infrastructure and network, all this will be maintained by these companies called the cloud providers, Microsoft or AWS or GCP, whatever it is, right? So we have different cloud providers in the market. That is one is AWS, which is Amazon cloud environment. AWS, which is Amazon cloud environment. And we have Azure, which is Microsoft cloud environment. And we have GCP, Google cloud environment. So each cloud provider is offering different kinds of services. Suppose if you talk about AWS, right, they are mainly into infrastructure as a service, and they do provide some kind of this platform as a service as well. What is the infrastructure is, we will talk about those concepts later. But if you talk about Azure, right, Azure, they are into infrastructure as a service, which we call it as IaaS, and also they are into platform as a service. They are very rich in platform as a service as well. Okay, your ADF, right, ADF or any other data engineering product or any data engineering product, any other data engineering product comes under platform as a service, which is a platform as a service. Which comes under platform as a service. So Azure has different, Azure has many data engineering products. Among them, one of the offerings they are providing is Azure Data Factory. Azure Data Factory. Let's understand, what is Azure Data Factory. Azure Data Factory is simply a cloud ETL. It's a cloud ETL. So we will talk about ETL and all those things just going forward. And so let's see, so Microsoft definition says Azure Data Factory is a data pipeline and orchestration tool. Orchestration tool or service. So we will understand what is data pipeline, orchestration, all these things, in later concepts. Let's talk about ETL only, right? Let's talk about ETL. If you talk about ETL, already there are a lot of tools are there in the market. Before we are going to proceed with all these tools, right? Let's understand the importance of ETL. Why industry should use ETL tools, right? That clarity first we will be getting. Let me demonstrate that with paint. Let's take about one organization. So let's think about this is one organization, and so in any organization, right, so different applications are running. So with the help of applications, end users are performing transactions, but where these transactions are stored, these transactions are stored in databases. So if you talk about this is as one organization and their transactions are stored in databases like this. So they will be storing all their transaction into databases. What are these databases called? These databases are simply called as OLTP systems. These databases are simply called as OLTP systems. So what is the full form of OLTP? Online transactional processing. Nowadays, all this, most of the OLTP systems are into RDBMS category. What is RDBMS? Relational Database Management System. They are most of the OLTP system into RDBMS category, Relational Database Management Systems. Here OLTP and OLTPs are into RDBMS category. What are the popular RDBMS tools in the market? So the popular RDBMS tools are like, Oracle, DB2. We have SQL Server from Microsoft. And if you talk about, open source, we have PostgreSQL, MySQL. So like this, there are, many kinds of OLTP systems are there in the market. But all these OLTP systems are, is used for, all these databases are used for OLTP, not for data warehousing purpose, not for data warehouse. If you talk about, any typical organizations, right? The enterprise is using multiple OLTP systems like this, right? They would be using multiple OLTP system. Why they have to use, multiple OLTP systems? Definitely big organizations are using more than one OLTP systems, right? So why they have to use multiple OLTP systems? So OLTP systems, why we are using? To capture the end user transactions. End users are performing transactions using the applications. Applications are, you are capturing the transactions, and those transactions will be stored into OLTP system. And these OLTP systems, they are using many OLTP systems in a typical organization. Why they have to use, many OLTP systems, right? The point number one, right? It is of less capacity. The point number one, the disadvantage of OLTP system is less capacity. That's why they have to use, multiple OLTP system. Less capacity. This is not only for storage, for processing the data as well. All these popular databases, right? Oracle, SQL Server, and whatever you name it, right? So they are only good up to storing up to SQL Server, DB2, whatever it is, right? So they are good up to storing the data up to 10 terabytes of data. So if you have a single table with, 5 terabytes of data, 5 TB of data, right? And if you fire a SQL query, it might take days time as well. So that is the reason that, so they are using multiple OLTP system. Second thing is, so biggest organizations are running into multiple applications, right? For example, if mine is a small organization and ours is, AB training, so we don't need that many applications. But think at the biggest organization point of view. So definitely biggest organizations are running into hundreds of applications, right? So just imagine hundreds of applications are reading and writing the data from one database. What will happen, right? The performance will be down. That is the reason for some applications they are running under some databases, and some other applications they are running into different databases. That is another reason. So again here, right, one application might be using Oracle and another application might be using SQL Server. Why they have to use, the different kinds of, for a same organization, why they have to use different kinds of OLTP databases, right? The reason would be, some applications might be compatible Oracle, some application might be compatible SQL Server, or and these OLTP systems, right? They are not free, right? So they are coming with some cost. They need to pay some kinds of license fees as well. Because of license cost and because of the compatibility to the applications, in this way organization would have many reasons that they are using multiple OLTP systems. But what is the problem with these OLTP systems? The problem with these systems is less capacity. They are only good up to storing 10 TB of data. If you go back to 10 years, right? So on those days 1 TB of data is huge volume, and nowadays 1 TB of data is not nothing. So your laptops itself has a storage capacity of 1 terabyte. Basically these OLTP systems have less capacity. That's why industry is compromising. So they can't keep, entire historical data into OLTP system. Suppose your organization is doing a business from last 30 years, but where the 30 years data, but you cannot keep your 30 years data into OLTP systems. But how much data you can keep into this OLTP system? That is only the recent data. So how much recent data you can keep? It may be 1 year, 2 year. How you will decide? It depends on your transactional frequency. So how frequently the transactions are happening to the particular system, based on the transactional frequency, we will decide that let's keep only 2 years of data. And where exactly the remaining data is being stored? But the remaining data is being stored into our entire, so the biggest data burden called data warehouse. So where exactly we will store our all the historical data, we will store into our biggest data burden called data warehouse. This is where we will store all our full data. And let's understand the meaning of traditional data warehousing, and let's later we will see what is the importance of modern data warehousing. So what is the problem with OLTP systems? They are into less capacity, and the solution for this is data warehouse. So we will store all our historical data into data warehouse. So again, if you talk about data warehouse, there are again some special kinds of databases are there for this data warehouse, and all these special databases also fall in RDBMS category. RDBMS category. All these data warehouses are also. So what are the popular data warehouses tools exist in the market? Teradata, Netezza, Vertica. Like this, there are some popular databases are exists in the market, and this is the solution till last 5 years. So all the OLTP systems are using Oracle, SQL Server, and all the data warehousing related systems are using Teradata, Netezza, Vertica, like this. And the problem with these great databases is so we will discuss about the problem with what are the problems with these great data warehousing databases, and why distributed systems came into an existing, even though we have such kind of great databases exist in the market. The problem with these databases is, number one, it is structured. The number one is these databases are structured, and they are good up to point. Number two is main point is point number two is so they are good up to storing 200 terabytes of data. Of course, for us 200 terabytes is very big, but if you think about biggest organization, right, so their nowadays data volume is going very huge, and rapidly it is increasing. So that's why industry is using the distributed systems as well, if the data is going more than 200 terabytes. So what are the distributed warehousing systems we have in the market? So we have so distributed system, if the data volume is going more than 200 terabytes, we have special distribution system called Hadoop. All right, what is Hadoop? Right, Hadoop has one special file system called HDFS. HDFS means Hadoop distributed file system. So around in 2011, Hadoop has came into the market, and it is coming with one new feature called unlimited data storage. Unlimited data storage. So how unlimited data storage is possible and all, we will discuss that later. But so by the inspiration of Hadoop, right, in cloud we will have data lakes come into the existence. With the inspiration of Hadoop, we have data lakes came into the existence in cloud. Data lakes in cloud. So the same data lake we will call in Azure called Azure Data Lake. As the same data lake we will call in AWS called AWS Data Lake, and same data lake in Google we call it as Google Data Lake. So Google, these, what are these data lakes are offering? These data lakes are offering you unlimited data storage, right? So now you know, based on the data volume, you can use different kinds of databases. If the volume is, you know, less than 200 terabytes, maybe we can go with Teradata, Netiza, or Vertica. But if the data volume is going more than 200 terabytes, then we will go with Hadoop kind of systems or other distributed file systems, right? So my question here is, whatever the data warehouse you are using, it doesn't matter for, you know, end users. End user transactions are being stored in OLTP systems like, you know, Oracle, SQL Server, DB2. But how to bring this data into data stored in the OLTP systems to warehouse, right? So end users transactions are being stored into these databases. How to bring, you know, this data into warehouse, right? So by running a special process called ETL, we will extract the data from source systems. What is the special process we are running here? ETL. By running a special process called ETL, we will get the data from source to target. All right. Especially in this picture, right? So my target is data warehouse. This is data warehousing. This is my data warehouse in this picture, right? And it could be, you know, Teradata, it could be Netiza, and it could be, you know, so our your distributed file systems called Azure Synapse and you know, Azure Data Lake. This is my data warehouse, right? And it may be your ADLS as well. So ADLS meaning, so this Azure Data Lake. So before, you know, extract, so what is the ETL, right? ETL means extract, transformation, and loading. What is ETL? Extract, transformation, and loading. So where is our source? Our source is in OLTP systems. That is Oracle, Oracle SQL Server, or, you know, a Postgres server, DB2, like this. And our data warehouse is, it can be, you know, our data warehouse is, why data warehouse we are using, right? This is used for some kind of analytical operations. So this OLTP systems we are using for capturing the transactional data, and warehouse we are using for capturing, doing some kind of analytics on your data. And here your data warehouse can be anything. It can be, you know, if you talk about Azure, it can be your Synapse, and it can be your data lake. And if you talk about traditional data warehousing, it can be Teradata, Netiza, anything, right? So how we fetch, you know, data from source to target, right? So by running a special process called ETL. What is ETL? ETL meaning extract, transformation, and loading. So what is the meaning of, you know, extract? Extract means reading the data from source and writing the data into, reading the data from source. And what is the loading? Loading meaning writing the data into target. This is what is called extract and loading. So before extract and loading, right, between extract and loading, we have some special process called transformation. So my question is, before extract and loading, what is the importance of transformation, right? Before extract and loading, we are doing some kind of special process called, you know, transformation, right? So why we have to do? Because, you know, raw data would not always contain, you know, a business inside. So if you want to get the business insights, we need to perform some kinds of transformation. So let's understand with one example of the business insights here. So let's say you are signing into one particular application, online application, and while the signing up, you are giving your first name, and you are entering your last name, and you are giving your date of birth, and you are giving your city, right? So so these details you are giving when you are signing up into one application. Okay, so at the end of the day, so this application, application owner might interested to see how many teenagers are joined, teenagers are signed up, how many middle-aged people are signed up. And if you see here, right, so this application owner would like to produce this kind of report, some sample report. And if you see here, what we are giving as the input, right, we are giving as the input as our first name, last name, date of birth, and city. These are the inputs we are giving. But if you see the end user requirement, right, this is not the same as what we have given as an input. Here the end user requirement is target requirement is age group. So here we need to perform some kinds of small transformation is required here. So here, if I know your age, if I know your date of birth, I can get the age by the help of current date, right? By the help of current date, I can get the age. So this is the transformation we are doing. So here I have age. So on aggregating of the age, I will get age group, right? Based on age, I will get age group. And once I perform this one, right, so we will be achieving our target requirement. The first level transformation here is converting your date of birth to age, and the next level transformation we are doing is age to age group. In this way, first we will extract the data, and then we will perform all the data cleansing, and then we will perform the transformation like date of birth to age and age to age group. Finally, once we perform all these things, we will load our data into our data warehouse. This is what is the work style of ETL. This is what is the work style of ETL. Once the data came into ETL, by running ETL process, we will keep the data into data warehouse. So first we have data into source systems, and here once the data come into ETL, and here by running the ETL process, we are keeping the data into our data warehouse, right? So again, in data warehouse, there are some kinds of special tasks we need to perform, like data management and data security and data backup and restore. So these kind of things we need to perform, because the modeling in the database and data warehouse is not same, because data warehouse we are using for analytical purpose, OLAP, we call it as OLAP. But where we are storing our transactional data, we are storing transactional data into OLTP systems. So data modeling is not same for OLTP and OLAP. That's why we need to do some kinds of special processing here. Data modeling is different. So finally, whatever you are doing, right, wherever you are storing the data, you after performing all your transaction, it doesn't matter for it doesn't matter for end user, right, business user. So they would like to see some kinds of reports, like your Power BI and your some kinds of business insights they would like to get. So the business user needs to understand, he needs to understand the predications or summary about his business. For that purpose, what they are using, they would be connecting to our data warehouse and performing reporting on top of it. So and there are some popular databases are there for reporting. The popular reporting tools we have exist in the market are, Power BI, Tableau, ClickView, like this. There are many, right? So from what is the input for their visualization tool? The input for the visualization tool is data warehouse. This entire picture is called business intelligence. This entire picture is called business intelligence. Now your ADF, now your ADF is coming under ETL part. Before going for ADF and data engineering, and let's you need to understand one thing, right? So you are not going to be designated as ETL developer. You will be designated as data engineer. So what exactly the roles of data engineer, we will talk in few minutes. Let's talk about ETL only. So what is ETL? As you already know, it's extract, transformation, and loading the data into target system. But the thing is, if it is ETL, already there are a lot of tools out there in the market. What are the popular ETL tools in the market? Like so that is Informatica, Abnisio, Data Stage, and if you talk about Microsoft itself, they have SSIS and Talent, Alteryx. So like this, there are many ETL tools, popular ETL tools in the market. So even though, right, even though many ETL tools are there in the market, what is the importance of ADF, right? So if you talk about Microsoft only, they have already SSIS, and they have one more. They have released one more product called ADF. What is the use, right? Why what is the importance of this ADF? Because ADF is a cloud ETL. If you talk about SSIS, it is on premises. So what is the advantage if I go with ETL? So for example, my organization requires so ETL process, and I have two products. One is SSIS, so another one is ADF, and I am choosing ADF. What benefits I will get if I go with ADF? The first attractive point, right? The first attractive point is no infrastructure. No infrastructure. So I need not to maintain any kind of infrastructure. Generally, what is the process of handling the infrastructure? Suppose I want to go with SSIS server. So if I want to maintain the SSIS server or Informatica server, we cannot keep in our office, right? For that we need to maintain a data center. So let's say I want to go with so I want to maintain a data center. Suppose a small data center with 100 servers, right? So what is the first process? First of all, we need to procure all the hardware, right? That means infrastructure team, so we need to involve the infrastructure team to enable to establish all the servers for me, right? And next request goes to operating system team. So they will have to install all the required operating systems. And first we need to procure the hardware. And next we need to install all the required operating systems. And next the request goes to networking team, and they will keep all my 100 systems into network. And data security, and next request go to some kind of firewall. They will take care of all the security and all. So if we want to maintain an infrastructure, this much process is there. Like we need to procure the hardware, then we need to install the corresponding operating systems, and we need to keep all our systems into network, and we need to involve the firewall team and security team. This much process is there to engage our data center, right? So not only the investment here, right? If I keep the investment today, to materialize the product, it might take months time as well. This is the first issue. So here this is the first attracting point why we have to use ADF, like no infrastructure cost. And the second attractive point is no maintenance. And the third attractive point is, it is the pay as you go model. Pay as you go. That means if you are using the services heavily let's say, we have run a process last month heavily, a big jobs we have run, and it has consumed some of the compute resources from our cloud. So we will be paying for what we have used. This kind of thing is called pay as you go, right? These are the major things, so previously these are the major things and major advantages if I am going for ADF. And previously, if I want to procure some kind of established Informatica server or SSIS server, previously lot of admin team I need, lot of security team I need, lot of this hardware team I need. So now all this investment I don't need, so I just need one or two persons are enough for me, especially into admin side. This is what is called no maintenance. There we don't need to maintain all these things. Even after establishing, we don't need to maintain anything. All this maintenance would be taken care by Microsoft. We don't need to worry about all the maintenance. And for example, in any case, if I am losing the data, right, if I am losing the data, and my cloud provider is guaranteed that I will be getting that data. In case of some power failures, in case of data center failures, if I am losing my data, and I will be getting the data by my cloud provider is giving me that kind of data. This is what is like cloud ETL. So here I can perform all the tasks like SSIS or Informatica and other ETL tools, and here at the same time I need not to maintain any kind of infrastructure. So another important point is I need not to purchase any kinds of software license. And if you talk about Informatica, SSIS, you need to purchase some kinds of software license. These software licenses nowadays is very costlier. It is costlier than your infrastructure, and these licenses are not lifetime free. So these licenses are it is you need to purchase, you need to renew your license again every 1 year or 2 years. So I don't have that investment as well if I am going with cloud ETL. So simply with some click I can deploy my ADF service. So similarly in ADF, ADF in Azure, so Amazon has AWS Glue. If you talk about so any traditional ETL, right, if you talk about some of the traditional ETLs like Informatica, Ab Initio, all the Talent, all these traditional ETL tools, right, somewhat data stage or somewhat coding is required. But if you talk about Azure Data Factory, it is a no coding environment. You don't need to write single code here. So with the help of graphical designer, with the help of graphical user interface, with the help of graphical user interface, you can perform your task. But if you talk about the traditional ETL tools, you need to write some kind of code. But here the prerequisite to learn the ADF is, right, only SQL. If you know SQL, that is good enough for learning the ADF. And here, so that here you won't be writing all the complex and queries, and you would need some basic SQL here you need. And if your process requires some kind of customization, right, and if the options which is provided in the ADF is not enough for your transformation purpose inside ADF, there is some other tool called Databricks. So for that, other developers will be there and they will be able to help you, and so they will perform all the transformation logic inside the Databricks, and they will give the data back to you, and from here again you can start using all the graphical options, and then you can perform your task. So if you are learning only ADF, you will not become full stack data engineer. You would be working on only some kind of ADF related task only. For example, if you want to become full stack data engineer, what are the some of the data engineering products you need to learn in Azure, right? So let's talk about those data engineering product, so to become a full stack data engineer. One points are here. So if you know ADF also, there are a lot of jobs in the market. And if you want to become full stack data engineer, there are different products are offering by Microsoft. Among them, one of the products is Azure SQL. The another product they are offering is Azure Data Lake. Another product they are offering is Azure Synapse Analytics. So another product Microsoft is offering is Azure. One of the product is Azure Data Factory. The fifth product for the Azure is Azure Databricks. They do have some other products, but these are the main products to become a full stack data engineer. They have some other products like Cosmos DB, Azure Streaming, and all those. But these are the top 5 products to become a full stack data engineer, and these are not that difficult, right? It is very easy to learn as well. So in this course we will touch about all these concepts. And here inside the Azure, so let's understand what is Azure SQL. So what is the before we are going to talk about Azure SQL, what is the SQL Server? SQL Server is a on-premises server. That means it is running in a special infrastructure, and it is running in a special server. You need to purchase a software license, and you need to install all the complete security and networking. Everything is by you. And whereas Azure SQL is a cloud OLTP system. From next time onwards, if your business does not want to use on-premises OLTP, then they can switch into cloud OLTP, which is Azure SQL. So this is not used for data warehouse, not used for data warehouse. It is used for only OLTP to capture end user transactions. All right. And what is next thing we will talk about? Azure Synapse. What is Azure Synapse? Azure Synapse is your warehouse environment, and Azure Synapse is into RDBMS category. That means it is capable of handling only structured data. It is capable of handling only structured data. For example, you are you need to you have a task to read customer reviews, like based on one kind of restaurant, right? So the customer is giving reviews, like based on the food they had, they are giving reviews. So like biryani taste is good, biryani is costly, and taste is not good. So like this so they are kind of giving some kind of customer reviews. And is it possible to query this is it possible to query all the positive feedback based on the reviews using SQL? It is not possible, right? Because this is the reviews and this is unstructured data. For that purpose, we have another product called Azure Data Lake. So Azure Data Lake is offering you one thing, as I have explained previously. This is a distributed file system. and it is offering you one thing, unlimited data storage. And here you can store, any kind of data as well. That means, you can store audio files, all the unlimited data storage, and here you can store structured data and unstructured data both. So what is the unstructured data? Unstructured data would be audio files, video files, raw text files, and images. Like this, you can store, unlimited data storage inside, your Azure Data Factory. And it supports, different kinds of data formats as well. So we will talk about different kinds of data formats it supports in later, like, what are the different kinds of formats we typically use, like, CSV, Excel, JSON, Parquet, Avro, ORC. So it supports different kinds of data format, and you can store, data in any kind of format, and your audio, video, all the raw text files, all this unstructured data also you can store here. And let's talk about, our Azure Data Factory. So if you come back to this picture, right? So your work area is under ETL. What you have to do? So you need to, so for, let's say your organization is using Oracle here and SQL Server, and here DB2, and some kind of, cloud OLTP system, that is Azure SQL. All right, and what you have to do here, right? You need to extract the data and load the data into target system, that is into your warehouse. And before extract and loading, we need to perform some kind of transformation. And you already know what is the importance of transformation, because the raw data would not contain any kind of business business insight. So for that purpose, we need to perform the transformation. But your ADF, so is working in, so ADF has two work styles. First work style is ETL, and second work style is ELT. You know already what is ETL meaning? Extraction, that means reading the data from source system. Transformation, and loading into target system. And it has another work style called ELT. E means extraction only, the same extraction, reading the data from source system. And here, loading. Next thing is not transformation, loading here, and then finally transformation. So ETL has two kinds of work styles, and when to use what, right? For example, if you have, very huge volume of data, and if you want to do some kinds of transformation on huge volumes of data, so the data transformation would be very low, right? So in those scenarios, what we will do is we will extract the data from source, and we will load the data into target, like on some kind of staging here. So our target here would be data lakes, and then again we will perform the transformation using Azure Data Factory. And once the data is in more meaningful way, then we will load the data back to our warehouse. It could be, Azure Synapse. It could be your Azure Data Lake itself. So we will perform this kind of, what different work styles are there in Azure Data Factory. One is ETL. If data volume is less, then we will do ETL, and if the data volume is more, we will perform ELT. And what are the different kinds of data you can load using ADF, right? And for example, if the data is structured, where you will store, we will store in Azure Synapse, because this is into RDBMS category. And if your data volume is unstructured, nowadays the most of the data in your organizations are not structured. The data volumes in your organizations are only 25 to 30% are structured, but most of the data is into logs, audio files, video files, some kind of text files. All this is into unstructured format. And where you will store all this unstructured data, we will store all the unstructured data into Azure Data Lakes. So this complete picture, this complete picture is called modern data warehousing. So if you have a structured data, what you will do, you will store the data into your Azure Synapse. And from where you will get the unstructured data, you can get the unstructured data from some kinds of raw text files, some kinds of FTP servers, some kinds of on-premises file systems. So from there they will, and they will be storing some kind of logs they will be maintaining, right? The application logs and FTP servers, they would be storing the images and all those files. And if the data is in more unstructured way, we will load this into Azure Data Lake. On top of this Azure Data Lake, we will run some kind of special transformations by using Spark and some other programming languages called Scala, Java and all. So using Databricks, we can run some kind of transformations by using Spark, and then we can make this unstructured data into structured, and then we can generate some business insights. That is what is the role of full stack data engineer. All right. So that is it for today. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Yeah, hi sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, what is the difference between Azure Data Factory and Azure Data Explorer?
Azure Data Explorer is some kind of client tool. So for example, if you have idea about this SQL server, right? And for the
Okay.
SQL server, what you are using to connect to the server, you are using SSMS, right? This is a client tool. Like that, for connecting the storage accounts, we will be using Azure. There is some other client tool called Azure Storage Explorer. All right. So that is one kind of client tool to connect to your cloud storage. This is what is the Azure Storage Explorer. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some questions in the chat. Please define data warehouse. So by this time, I think you would have already some understanding about the data warehousing, right? So why we use data warehouse? We used to store all the historical data, and here inside the data warehouse, we will be creating the data modeling right here, like star schema, snowflake schema. And why we use the data warehouse, right? So to capture all our historical data, we will use our data warehouse, and we create different kinds of data modeling here, and that data would be used by our reporting systems like Tableau, Power BI, and all those. And if the data is in structured way, we will store into Synapse, and if the data is in unstructured way, we will store into data lake. These both are data warehouses. If the data is structured way, we will store in Synapse. Synapse is also a distributed system, but it has a capability of storing only structured data, whereas data lake is also distributed file system, and this data will be stored into any kind of format. You can store structured, unstructured, anything. Hope you got it. So only ADF is fine to get the job. Yeah, so you need to definitely, if you are applying for some jobs, right, you need to learn SQL, because your interview questions would be based on SQL and the combination of ADF. If you have these two combinations, you will definitely get the job. So to learn ADF, right, so how many days, if you ask, it depends on how much time you are spending, right? So if you spend ADF, you will be able to learn in a 1 month. You can learn easily ADF, and then you would be able to clear the interviews as well by yourself. But the thing is, you need to put a very good amount of time to learn ADF. Then you will become and this tool is new in the market, and the surviving to the jobs also very easily. So it won't be that difficult. Let me stop recording, guys.